Okay, so the first thing the Eagles are going to have to do is they're going to have to handle Kansas City's pressure. And Kansas City was in the top 5 in pressure all season long. And that's one element of it. But where they're number one is they were the number one team in unblocked defenders on blitzes. So they're excellent as that. Then they've also, in the postseason, they've had 7 different guys who have had sacks. So you can see that there's a volume of pressures. They look different. They bring a lot of different combinations of guys. So that can be problematic. And if you look at Jalen Hurts throughout the course of this season, under pressure, so his passer rating's at 80, that's about almost over 20 points below what it normally is. And his completion percentage at 45, similar, about 20% or 20 points lower than what it normally is under pressure. And when you look at this season, the game that he lost against Tampa Bay, who was second in the league in pressure, they gave up 6 sacks. And when you look at Kellen Moore against Vic Fangio's defense, I went back and watched against Spags' defense. I'm sorry. I went back and watched or looked at some of the Chargers numbers last season when Kellen was there. The first game, 6 sacks. Okay, so it's been problematic over time. So that's the first thing. And I'll just say, in the running game, it can have an effect too, because the Eagles are so good at blocking those stationary defenders and creating holes. But now when you're moving guys and bringing extra guys, that can create some negative plays, which I think they're going to have to do with Saquon.
I'll be honest with you, Coach. That first one didn't give me a ton of confidence. As thinking about a guy who's thinking about the Eagles, that one didn't.
He doesn't.
I felt like a Spags compliment rather than.
Yeah, that's good.
Let's go to the second.
Yeah, I thought it was great, Coach.
I was very nervous.
Here's the second one.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to talk about this. I'm realizing that I'm going to break these up into each individual video so I can really talk about them individually, because we only got 2 teams to talk about, for the next 5-6 days. So it makes sense to kind of do it this way. You know what? This right here is a little inflated. Okay. He referenced the Buccaneers game and talked about the pressure and Jalen Hurts unable to do stuff. A.J. Brown wasn't playing. Neither was Devontae. So we're going to take away his wide receiver 1 and 2. You're also going to have multiple O-line going in and out of the lineup because of the heat. They were having heat issues. They couldn't run the ball. And even when they could start to run the ball, Saquon Barkley was so exhausted because, again, it was 106 degrees out there. Saquon Barkley then had to go get oxygen on the sideline because he couldn't handle it. And, that's the game that we're going to use as a reference point? What? When they're fumbling kickoffs and punts, and I don't even remember exactly how that unfolded, but it was a mess. That mess of a game we're going to use as a reference point. Does that make sense? It doesn't. It doesn't. Listen, does Kellen Moore need to give answers to Jalen Hurts for the blitz, for the pressures? Absolutely. No question about it. And I've been saying that big time. It needs to be all hands on deck. Because if other great quarterbacks like the Josh Allens of the world can struggle with it, well, then certainly Jalen Hurts can. Even Patrick Mahomes. That's why everyone always blames Patrick Mahomes. They don't blame Patrick Mahomes, but what they blame the loss on for Mahomes against Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Well, the O-line was so bad. He was pressured all game. And it's oh, okay. You don't want to give that same excuse for Sam Darnold or, any of these other quarterbacks, but for Patrick Mahomes, it's okay. Got it. As long as we understand the rules. So that is a real thing. But that is, from my viewpoint, it's hard to put a number on it, but 80% Kellen Moore. 80%. Because Shane Steichen, Jalen Hurts was awesome with the blitz versus with Shane Steichen versus pressures, when he was under pressure. So that's awesome. And then, it was really bad in 23 and definitely got better in 24, relatively speaking. So, they're going to bring the pressure. We know that. And Spags is a genius. Spags is awesome. Unfortunately, coordinators don't get, obviously, that same attention that head coaches get, which is understandable. They're not a head coach. But we talk about Andy Reid being a genius. And, quite frankly, even offensive coordinators we talk about being geniuses. Ben Johnson is a genius. Maybe because defense is just less popular and some older, coach like Spags is just not as cool and sharp, and he's not constantly being he's going to be the next big thing for a head coach. They just pay less attention to it. It seems like really the only true football nerds really understand just how special Spags is. And that's why I always reference that he literally stopped Tom Brady's undefeated season where they were, they were dominating 40, 50-point games. And you just completely shut them down in the Super Bowl. Like, Spags is that guy. And that's why I said, for this game, it's really going to be more about, can the Philadelphia Eagles players themselves overcome the great defensive coaching and scheme that the Chiefs bring. It's not to say that the Chiefs don't have great players as well, but it's just going to be more like, can Spags shut down the Eagles players? Less so than Spags versus Kellen Moore. There's certain situations when I see it as, the DC versus the OC, or the DC versus the offensive head coach. Like, then I can really kind of be like, okay, this is going to be a fascinating coaching battle. In a lot of ways, that's what I felt that it was like between Joe Brady versus Spags in the AFC Championship game. And Spags clearly won. And I think it's less so about that. I think Kellen Moore obviously needs to kind of carry his weight here, but I just don't know if Kellen Moore is that guy just yet at this point in his NFL coaching career. I just think it will be more about the players themselves. Can they step up? When Jalen Hurts throws a tightly contested throw with a hand in his face to AJ Brown in a tight little window, does AJ Brown hold on to that ball, or does he catch it and then the ball bounces off the ground, which we saw against, I think it was against the Commanders or the Rams. I think it was the Commanders, because my memory doesn't feel like there was like snow on the ground. So I'm pretty sure it was against the Commanders. You have that moment. That's when I talk about the players needing to step up. It's not like the players that I'm saying, AJ Brown needs to come down with this huge 60-yard, catch. Like, obviously, if you're an Eagles fan, you want that too. But it's some of these other little things. A hands in the face to Jalen Hurts. Can he get the ball to Dallas Goedert in a way that Dallas Goedert can now catch it and turn around and march down the field for another 10 yards? Can he fall forward into the first down? Or is it now 4th and 2? And it's like, 4th and 2, man. Or is it now 1st and 10? Those are the differences. Those are that is a difference between winning and losing in many, many moments. Especially when you're talking about in a Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs, small margin of error. We know Jalen Hurts is going to be under pressure. We know that. Now, the unsettling thing is, and again, to be fair, the Eagles are significantly better than the Minnesota Vikings. But that's when you saw that Detroit Lions game against the Minnesota Vikings, you were like, oh my God, Sam Darnold is being pressured nonstop. And then going into that playoff game, I remember I was talking to Travis O'Shea, and I was saying, this playoff game is exciting. To me, this is really going to be so much about Kevin O'Connell versus Sean McVay. Like, this is going to be so fascinating. I'm excited to see how this all unfolds. And like, now that Kevin O'Connell really got to see against the Detroit Lions in terms of all that pressure and kind of how bad the O-line did and how Sam Darnold wasn't able to overcome it. Like, I was like, I have to believe, I really think Kevin O'Connell is a great head coach, and an offensive mind. I was like, I'm really excited to see what Kevin O'Connell has in store for Sam Darnold, because he's definitely going to give him answers. And I was like, he's going to give him answers. He's going to give him answers. He did not give him any answers. He was like, a blitz? What's a blitz? I've never heard that. You mean the defense can get past the offensive line and tackle the quarterback? Like, I didn't know that was, oh God, I didn't know that was possible. I didn't know that was a thing. Like, that's what it literally felt like. It was like, hey, refs, can they do that? Can they tackle our quarterback? Like, that's what that game felt like. Now, again, the Philadelphia Eagles have a significantly better O-line, and Jalen Hurts has dealt with those moments better. And I just have to imagine that, Kellen Moore and relying on that run game, because that's also part of it, establishing the run, and giving these answers, for Jalen Hurts. Like, it's a combination, it really is. So, it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. But the one thing that I am 100% confident in, there's no doubt in my mind, Spags is going to bring it. He's got the best track record out of anyone on the Eagles, quite frankly. He's just been coaching longer. He's been playing, he's been winning longer. Like, so you're not going to watch this Super Bowl and say, Spags, what was that defensive plan, man? Like, what were you doing? You're not going to take away this game. And even if the Eagles win, even if the Eagles win by 50, you're still not going to be like, Spags' defense was just, what was that game plan? You're just going to say, no, the Eagles were significantly better. Now, if the Eagles lose this game and the offense looks in disarray, you're going to now compliment Spags and say, man, that was just, world class by Spags. Like Spags got a ton of the credit for, getting after Josh Allen and against the Buffalo Bills. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. That's every single Eagles video. I pretty much just say that at the end. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Philadelphia Eagles? How they have to deal with the pressure and how they will go about it. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.